Let's say you woke up in the late 1800s. What does your morning routine look like? Well, for starters, the frontier didn't have an IKEA, so your back is gonna kill in the morning. Beds were merely tales of simplicity and necessity. You got what you got. There was no sleep numbers for cowboys, that didn't exist. Beneath the night sky, cowboys and travelers found rest on piles of straw or dirt, or if you were lucky, you had a wooden frame underneath a straw mattress. And those beds were often infested with bed bugs, lice, and other insects. I'm so itchy just reading this, I'm so sorry. Keeping you tucked in on top was a handmade quilt, which was probably quite itchy, which would offer a touch of comfort to exhausted settlers. Just a touch, just a little, about yay size right there. Our modern day sleeping bag came from frontier times. See, back then they were called sleeping rolls, and these rolls would include personal belongings wrapped in a waterproof sack. Hundreds of years later, I still have no idea how to roll up a sleeping bag. Yeah, I can't do it. The first half is fine, and then it gets crooked, and then I panic and just stuff it all in that little bag, and then hope no one notices. That's how I pack a sleeping bag. What's up? Does a cowboy wear underwear? I feel like we already know the answer to that question. Yuck. Before Fruit of the Loom, it was not uncommon for both men and women to forego underwear entirely. Just nothing, going rogue. See, this was of course because it was difficult in washing and drying clothing back then, and this practice was thought to be more hygienic by some, believe it or not, as it allowed the skin to breathe and this reduced moisture retention, which could also lead to skin infections. I don't know, I don't think not wearing underwear helped by keeping things breezy, but I get the idea. I'm not saying to go into work with nothing under those jeans, but I am saying there was a method to this madness. I'm wearing 2 pairs right now. How does that sound? When it came to clean water, of course, that too was a scarce commodity in many parts of the Old West. Access to rivers and streams could be limited, and the water that was available was often contaminated by livestock or human activity. A lot of shit in that water, you don't want to drink that stuff. That being said, of course, bathing was a rare luxury for many. Most of the time, a simple well or a creek would often do the job. Yeah, welcome to the Old West, where you have to wash your ass in the creek. How lovely is that? But you have a nice hat. You have a cool one of these hats. You're probably thinking, what would these cowboys wash with? Right? Before Pantene Pro V, how did we keep our heads clean? Soap was a treasure back then, but even if you had it, it kind of sucked. It didn't really work too well. Wasn't like your Irish Spring. I'm just naming soaps now. I just love soaps. Soap was made from lye and animal fat, and it wasn't like Bath and Body Works, not even close. It didn't smell anything like a greatness. And it didn't smell great at all. Those soaps smelled awful. But even with soap, scrubbing away all that dirt was impossible to keep up with daily. So most of the time, people were just dirty. They just accepted it. It would be weird to wash up with soap and then jump into a bed full of bugs. I don't know, that's counterproductive at this point. Washing clothes was also a time-consuming process that sucked. Clothes were scrubbed in tubs or along riversides using rough brushes and the same homemade soap used for bathing. So, didn't work here, it's not gonna work over there. Stinky and stinkier. Clothes were then hung out to dry in the sun, and they would often stiffen as they dried. So you'd come out and just see a cardboard shirt. You just pull it off and then just grab it like this and walk off. That's how you folded your laundry. You just fucking, God, so stupid. Oh, so dumb. Just a crusty shirt. They're like, what'd you do in this shirt? What happened? Whose shirt is this? Population problems. Childbirth was of course a dangerous process in the Old West. You can only imagine the conditions one had to experience that in. In the Old West, midwives or family members often delivered babies without a clear understanding of cleanliness. This lack of sanitation contributed to a high mortality rate in the family. Life in growing towns and cities posed its own set of challenges. Overcrowding, inadequate sanitation facilities, and the dumping of just poo everywhere all over in the streets. This of course caused a breeding ground for disease. The lack of sewage systems meant that human waste was often just thrown into streets or emptied into those nearby bodies of water that I mentioned earlier. The ones that you drink with your mouth. That's horrible. All these disgusting factors contributed to outbreaks of diseases like cholera and typhoid. Drinking dirty poo-poo creek water. That's how it happens. We've all used the damp towel at some point, all right? It sucks, we've all been there. But what about a communal towel? Yeah, dry off, pass it on, who's next? You ever share a towel with a group of strangers before? I sure hope not. Water parks, actually, now that I'm thinking, that's pretty disgusting. Resorts too? Oh God, what am I doing? Today we have paper towels, or sometimes if you're lucky, that Dyson air dryer that you dip your hands in. That's loud and fun. Back in the Old West, communal towels were often used in public restrooms and other shared spaces. These towels were often made of cloth and hung in a rack for multiple people to use all day long while they washed their cowboy business. And while this may seem unhygienic by modern standards, it was a common practice at the time, and it was quite disgusting. People were generally less concerned about the spread of germs and diseases back then, and communal towels were a convenient and cost-effective option for public spaces. However, with the rise of awareness of hygiene and disease prevention and all the things you should have known back then, the use of towels eventually fell out of favor in the early 20th century. Thank God. Imagine you go get some wings with your buddies, you dap off with a communal towel. Oh, what? In the Old West, dental hygiene was also not a priority for most people. Yeah, surprise, surprise. Dental care was not often great, for that matter. It really sucked. They didn't know what they were doing for the most part. People generally did not have access to modern dental tools or products, and many did not have regular access to dentists because, I mean, where are those guys? What do they know? Before the time of Oral-B, you'd have to use twigs or chew on mint. Yeah, you just chew on mint every morning and be like, all right, let's start the cowboy day. Some people might have also used a cloth or a rag to rub their teeth clean, like your teeth are made of wood. Don't forget your tooth cloth. Don't forget that when you're packing for camping. All clean now. It's horrible. That makes my shivers. I don't like that feeling at all. Other options included a community toothbrush that everyone just, pass that along, good luck. Some public establishments had a public toothbrush. Can you imagine? I'm gonna be sick, I'm getting out of here. In these growing urban centers, medical care was rudimentary at the best. Doctors were few, and their understanding of disease and infection was so limited. You can imagine what a dentist did. Now a guy's gonna open you up. Good luck with that. Treatments were often based on guesswork and superstition. Yeah, he's like, I hope I know what I'm doing. Good Lord, let's spin around twice and then now you're clean. Superstition, let's do it. Many ailments that are easily treatable today were just fatal back then. The lack of understanding of germ theory was a significant obstacle to improving hygiene. That's of course. Even medical professionals often operated without washing their hands, unknowingly spreading infections while they spread you. Awesome. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but yeah, you can spread every part of you. You can spread your toes if you want. Spitting was a common habit in the Old West. When you imagine a cowboy, you imagine him spitting, doing some cool spinny move with his holster there. But many towns and cities would often prohibit spitting on sidewalks and in public buildings. Cause it's disgusting. Yeah, we love this one. They knew what they were doing, turns out. This was largely due to concerns about hygiene and the spread of those diseases that I mentioned earlier. In addition, spitting was considered rude and uncivilized behavior, which is crazy considering the times, and many people were offended by it. How dare you? Some businesses even posted signs asking customers to not spit on the floor. Love that. We gotta bring those signs back, believe it or not, I guess. A bunch of animals out there. There were also social norms in place for that discouraged spitting in certain situations. For example, it was considered impolite to spit in the presence of a woman or in formal settings. And despite these efforts to discourage spitting, it remained a common practice among cowboys, miners, and other workers in the Old West. They're like, yeah, I have ammonia and lead in my mouth. I have to spit. I have to spit. I'm sorry. Number 1, seam squirrels. During the Old West era, lice infestations were quite common. That's right, I saved the most gross one for last, just in case you were eating a bowl of noodles. I did that for you. The type of lice that affected people during this time was commonly known as body lice, which could be found in the seams of clothing, hence the term seam squirrels. Not actual squirrels crawling on your body. That would be pretty awful. This is worse somehow. To combat the spread of lice and the diseases that they carried, people in the Old West often resorted to extreme measures such as burning their clothing or even shaving their heads. That's why all the cowboys were bald back then. It wasn't to be cool, it's because they had bugs living in their hair. How I'm gonna throw up. Some people also used remedies like vinegar and kerosene to try and kill all that lice. Overall, lice infestations were a significant health concern and, well, you know what, still is. Let's check daily for those in your head. You may never know. You might want to put some ammonia in your hair. Get those lice out. If you had a time machine, would you travel back to the Old West, or would you not want to be covered in bugs all day, every day, with no bathing options possible? Comment down below. See ya. Pantene Proby, so spicy. Burns your eyes, that stuff. Conditioner for that, man, it takes forever to come out. Yeah, don't forget your tooth cloth. Your tooth cloth. In New York, your fucking tooth cloth. Yeah, don't forget your tooth cloth. Why can't I say that without sounding like a New York guy? Whatever. Number 2, no spitting law. Alrighty. I got no spit left in me, apparently. And dry bones.